Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's episode, we're removing the alcohol but keeping the fun and flavour as we talk alcohol-free stouts. I'm Joanne and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us. So I think the beginning of this episode started because you bought a mash gang stout and I got FOMO and bought it as well.
I did. I'm wearing my mash gang. I feel like we've not gone to be like, oh, what are you wearing? What are you wearing? Like the episode. So I am rocking my mash gang
Nice
top today. It was really funny because I had it on. It says getting dry on our own supply. And I was wearing it the other day when Rick knew potentially we were going to be recording the non-alcohol stouts, and I like put it on in the morning. And he was like, "You can't wear that today because you're not recording that today." In the end, and I was like, "No, I'm not, am I?" And he's like, "No, you need to wait. You need to wait and wear that when you record the episode." And I was like, "Yeah, at least he gets it. That I'm like, I need to do that." Yeah, it did. I put in. It was funny because I recommend mash gang to lots of people fairly regularly when they're like, oh, I've tried this alcohol-free Peroni or the alcohol-free, whatever. And I've gone like, oh, you can get some really good alcohol-free beers now. And I'm like, mash gang for me is the most consistent. Like a lot of breweries will do like one alcohol free every so often, or maybe they've got a low alcohol. That's part of their core range.
Yeah.
But my manager was like, talking about how her husband was trying to just cut back on some alcohol, so they were having like alcohol-free stouts and stuff, and I was like, I can give you the place that's got it. And I sent them to Mash Gang because I said they're consistently good, the flavors, like it's interesting, they do a variety of styles, like have a look at them. So she's pulled it up and I said, oh, there's a cinnamon bun one that I really like want. And as I was showing her, I was like, oh, I really want this now. And then I ended up, after she put an order in, I was like, I'm gonna put an order in then, because there was enough interesting stuff that I wanted to try it. But we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, it did all stem because I got that one,
and you told me,
and then you were like, I want it as well.
Like, oh, I really want it. And I was in the old bike store in Worthing, and they had it in the fridge, and I was like, and as well as what I'm ordering, can I have that one? And I don't open it. I want to take that away, please, because my friend bought it, and I've got FOMO, and they were like. Right.
So like, can do.
Cool. So it's been in our fridges and we were like, oh, what can we do with it? What can we do? And we haven't done anything on low and no alcohol beers in a little bit.
It has been a while.
Episode-wise.
And I think when we've done it, we've had like an option when we're doing it. I think the last time we did like exclusively alcohol-free was when we did like dry January type stuff. Not this year. This was, that was 2 years ago?
Yeah,
maybe even 3 years ago.
A proper episode looking at it since then, and I don't think Mash Gang was around then.
I think there's a potential we did it. They were around, but I don't think. I think we might have, but I don't think that they were as easily as accessible as they are now. I think at that time we had to be doing like orders, and there was just a lot more other things to try, and there wasn't the consistency of having mash game. Maybe they weren't around. I can't remember, because it feels like one day I knew about them and you just couldn't get them that often, and then they were just like, now everyone's conned on to the fact that they are just excellent, consistent alcohol free, so now you can get them quite consistently, which is nice.
And I think so we had this stout, and I think of all the styles that you can get in non-alcoholic form, I think stout is one of the most difficult to get right, because one of the key things about it is having the right mouthfeel and the right texture in it. And because low alcohol beers can sometimes lack in body, it can be difficult to get that right. So we had this one, we were like, oh, well, let's do that. I've also been hearing very good things about no alcohol Guinness.
I've had no alcohol Guinness before.
I've not had it. So I was talking to someone at work about it. They had just recommended me no alcohol Corona. It
tastes like a Corona.
Right, it tastes like a Corona. Right. I am not a massive fan of Corona. Like, the only time I've ever really drunk Corona is when it was free
Yeah.
at crew parties when I was on the ships because it was all that was available, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to drink one
We
of
have
those.
it at work, and we
Yeah.
have like the alcohol Corona and the non-alcoholic Corona, and then basically I've convinced the powers that be that we need to start getting some craft beer, and so I'm able to get some craft beer in like on a monthly basis. But when we don't, the cheaper option that for the consistency that's just going to be there all the time is kind of stuff like Corona, and we had alcohol-free ones, and they look really similar. So like there's times that people have like grabbed that by mistake because it's just a lighter color blue, and they've grabbed it and not really thought about it. But also like I had one that like I don't know, because we were having a day at work, and I was like, I'm having a beer, and I was like, we don't even have any, so it's like I was gonna have an alcohol-free Corona then, and then they had been in there for quite a while because nobody wanted to touch them, and I was like, oh dear, I'll take one for the team, and I like had a sip of it, and I was like, well, I mean, I don't really want to finish it because it feels like it's not worth the carbs, but it also was like, well, it's not wildly far off the taste of a normal Corona.
Right. I mean, but that's the thing, right? That I feel like that what you just said is a key thing. I'm not going to finish this because I don't want the carbs. Right, so if it's not good enough to drink,
and it doesn't
on those carbs, then it's not a good enough beer. Like it's not good enough non-alcoholic beer.
And again, it doesn't. I made it about the carbs because I'm just like I could be having, and Rick will do this all the time. Like, you could have like a really like, lactose and lots of like chocolate and shit in like that kind of like pastry stout, or you could have like a brownie for like the same. And it's like if I'm gonna go and have something that's just like, no, I'd rather. I'm not saying, oh, I can't have the carbs full stop. I'm not like that conscious. It's just like, is it worth it to consume that over something else that I could be having? But I mean, you could replace carbs there. You could be like, is this worth my time to even bother drinking this when I could just have something that's much tastier? Like a Diet Coke with lime in it to me is tastier than some of these.
Well, I have heard, what this boils down to is I have heard that the Corona Zero tastes the same as Corona. So if you enjoy Corona, then you have an non-alcoholic version. But I've also heard the same about the non-alcoholic Guinness. I will go to a Guinness if there's nothing else good on or nothing new on at a pub that I want to try. So I'm talking to my colleague. I was like, I've not tried it, and they're like, oh, it's very good. I've got some at home. I'll bring you one in. So I then ended up with a non-alcoholic Guinness as well as the mash gang. So we were like, feels like we need to do non-alcoholic stouts then, right? Let's see if there's, if these do what we want them to do as stouts, but still have no alcohol in them. Like are they worth the carbs? Worth the carbs?
Are they worth the are they worth the time?
Yeah.
Are they worth the time and effort to even finish drinking them? I'm not gonna lie, I'm really nervous about 2 out of the 3 that are not the Guinness, because I feel like
the other 2 that we're gonna drink.
The other 2 we're gonna drink. I'm really nervous because I'm like, if they don't live up to it, I'm gonna be really sad because they've both have me like.
And you picked the other one as well.
Yeah, I picked the other one as well, so I'm like really hyped on them. But if they don't live up to them, or like even come close to the flavors, I'm gonna be a bit sad. But the Guinness, I'm just going to go in with an open mind because maybe I'm misremembering, but from what I remember, it's exactly like what the person said about it being more or less pretty much like Guinness. It was funny because Rick, so I couldn't get a single can. I had to buy a 4-pack. Yeah. And I went around to like 3 or 4 different shops, and eventually I was like, I'm done. I'm just getting the 4-pack. Like it's not even worth for the sake of like what will probably be like £3. There's just no point in me even. I'll have 4, whatever. And I took the pack home, and Rick was like, are those alcohol-free Guinness? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I've heard those are really good. I was like, it's the trend. Everyone seems to hear they're really good. So really good. I was like, I've got extras. You can try. What I do want to do, I'm not going to lie, is I do want to buy, I want to buy the thing for the Guinness, the soda.
Oh, yeah, I keep looking at it.
But they're like £30 and I'm like, I can't justify it, but I also really want it. And I might have sent you another Guinness Zero. So like maybe we can convince ourselves to buy the soda. Yeah. And then we can have the different Guinnesses with it to just see how it works. Like you can use it on other beers as well.
On other nitro pour beers. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
We have
I know
craft
that's
beers.
why
We end up with craft beers that are nitro pours.
we
So,
do, and that's why I'm like trying to convince myself that I can have it. But then I'm like,
is
but
this
then there's
another episode,
also,
listeners?
yeah, that's
Let
why I
us
thought I'd
know.
send
Let
you
us
the other
know.
Guinness in case I can
Do
convince myself to buy one.
do you want us to get the nitro surge thingy bob and do an episode? Because
And
like we
why
can
is the
find.
answer yes?
And why is the answer yes? Let us know if you want us to do this. Like, and what nitro beer should we get to go alongside the Guinness? Let us know.
This would be the thing where it's like, 75% say no, 25% say yes. We're like, we listened to those 25%.
Right, the listeners,
We did it anyways.
And they told us to do it.
Well, maybe let's crack into the first one, and then maybe if this episode goes really well, maybe we can do some alcohol-free tasting of other ones in future.
Yeah.
Well, we've done stouts now, and maybe we can just go by styles in future. Let's see. Guinness first.
The non-alcoholic series next to the lager series.
Yeah.
Yeah, Guinness first. I think we need to use this as our baseline.
The widget's in there and everything. You can hear it.
I can hear the widget in there.
Yeah, fun fact, it's not a ping pong ball, it's a widget.
I've only got little glasses, but that'll be fine.
Fine, I've got my
that's the size I've got. I've only got my taster, but that's fine. Right, I'm gonna open it and hear the
go. You can hear the widget having a meltdown on the inside as well.
Yeah, mine's coming out the top.
Look at that creaminess.
Ooh, it is very creamy.
I will say, from the pour, it's doing the exact thing that a Guinness does. So if you watch it on the camera, I will hold it up to the camera. It's doing the thing where it pours all crazy, and then it starts to the foam starts to rise.
Oh, it is very pretty.
Look at how beautiful and layered that looks.
It smells like a Guinness.
It looks like a Guinness. It smells like a Guinness. You know what they say? If it looks like a Guinness and smells like a Guinness,
it must be a Guinness.
Top mine up. Must be a Guinness. I've topped mine up, and it's just this beautiful, coffee looking.
Yeah, it is beautiful. I mean, it looks like a Guinness. It smells like a Guinness. Does it taste like a Guinness?
Go. Don't even just cheers. It tastes like a Guinness to me. There's a slightly different taste. It's a little bit more bitter in the back end of it.
Oh, I think it's a bit sweeter.
Oh, see, I think I get some bitterness towards the back end of it, a tiny, tiny bit. It is, yes, sweeter, which I guess that makes sense when you look at alcohol-free in general. But I think that the immediate taste is 100% Guinness.
Oh, yeah. The body. So the thing that gets me about alcohol-free stouts is the body. This has the same mouthfeel to me as a Guinness.
The foamy head as well,
yeah,
that nitro.
If you stuck that in front of me and was just here's Guinness, I wouldn't think any different.
I think I'd probably go something tastes a bit different about it. Is this a different? I'd be thinking, is there a potential that it's one of the we've had the export stout, and I know that's not what it tastes like, but I might be thinking is it something like the export stout, where is there something slightly different about it? But I don't think I would go as the alcohol-free one.
No.
I'd believe that it was made by Guinness.
Yeah. 100%. Mate, if I'm driving and this is what's available, I'll drink it.
I still think the way that I govern whether or not I drink an alcohol-free beer over not is does it scratch the itch? So there's two things of again, is it something that's fruity flavor? So for example, when we had the Bianca, the alcohol-free Bianca, and that basically just tasted like pineapple juice. To me, the flavors just tasted really good. It tasted like a virgin cocktail, which was basically just very thick juice, and that was nice. So if the flavors are really good, I'm I'll go for it. But number two, is it going to scratch the itch of drinking a beer for me? Does it taste as good to scratch the itch as the usual? I mean, I think for me, if I'm not drinking, I like Guinness. It's my go-to fruit. It's my go-to beer that I feel is safe. Phelan has just entered the room. If you're watching the video, the door is just wildly swung open. It's my go-to. That is a safe and easy bet at a bar. But I don't love it enough where if I'm driving, that taste is going to be alone what I'm going to go for. But I feel like it would scratch the itch for a beer.
See, now if I'm driving, I don't drink fizzy drinks. So
Fair.
I always find it difficult because then I'm like drinking J2Os and they're so full of
Sugar.
or water, so like if there's like a mocktail, then maybe I'll get something like that. But at a pub, my options are something fizzy, which I don't want to drink, like a J2O, which is so sugary, and they're quite small, but
Yeah.
as expensive as getting a beer. So
It's insane.
I go through them very quickly, or I'm drinking water. So I would definitely, if they had Guinness Zero on and I'm designated driver, I'd be all over that.
I can see how it scratches that itch for sure. I think there's just something about like for me the body is slightly thinner, but I think it makes up for it. And like the head is what is for me really like giving some of that extra, like what it seems to be missing in like the body itself. I feel like it's made up for in the head part of it, so it's okay. It balances out quite well. I'm just being nitpicky because obviously, like I said, Guinness is the go-to, not just for me, but it's the go-to for a lot of people. And I don't want somebody to like, I want to call out those things that are slightly different because I don't want someone to be like, go and order. It's like, you said this was exactly like a Guinness. It's like,
because people totally do that.
Overall, I mean, it is fairly on par with a normal Guinness, but there are some subtle differences. Like you said, I think it's worth calling out that there is that little extra bit of sweetness to it.
Yeah, I think there's a bit more sweetness rather than that kind of roasty bitterness that you normally get with a Guinness.
But it has quite a dry like finish to it as well.
I mean, I've nearly drunk all of mine. Granted, it's only a tasting glass worth, but I've nearly drunk all of it already.
I was going to say I topped mine up and I'm about halfway through it. So
I filled my glass and I've got like a couple of mouthfuls left in mine while we've been talking. I'm enjoying it a lot.
It's tasty. Would you recommend to somebody that enjoys normal Guinness then? So I think the verdict on that is
100% I would. Yeah. So I looked up some of the ways that a non-alcoholic beer is made now. I feel like we've talked about these before, but I thought I would just
recap
on them. And then I've got a little bit from the Guinness website about how they make Guinness Zero. So some of the main ways that non-alcoholic beer is being made is by reverse osmosis or controlled fermentation, or to eliminate fermentation altogether. For reverse osmosis, high pressure forces fermented beer through a filter with small holes that only allow water, alcohol, and volatile acids to pass through. The alcohol can be distilled from the mixture. This method is becoming more popular because it retains more flavour than thermal extraction. Controlled fermentation is also known as arrested fermentation. So this method involves fermenting the beer like a regular alcoholic beer, but stopping the process before the yeast produces alcohol. And this can be done by keeping the wort below 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I feel like that's when you get the ones that have that kind of slightly worty, sweet flavour to them, because obviously the yeast hasn't fermented, so you've still got those kind of sugars in there.
Yeah, and that's what I try to explain to people as well, is when they're like, oh, it tastes like this, and like if they've never tried wort before, like I've got to be like, actually, when you're tasting that sort of like grainy, cereally like element of it, it's like, yeah, that is similar to what wort tastes like, and it's basically just not allowing it to continue developing, really.
So then you can also eliminate fermentation, which prevents the wort from coming into contact with the yeast, resulting in a 0.00% ABV. However, the beer may taste overly sweet and taste like dessert. Yeah, so that's what we're saying about.
Yeah.
They can also de-alkalize the beer. So they do it exactly the same, but then they evaporate the alcohol out of it through vacuum distillation, which I feel like can take off some of the volatile compounds as well. You can limit fermentation with maltose negative or maltotriose negative yeast.
Like, I feel like reverse osmosis sounds really complicated. Like, just the title sounds really complicated.
I remember learning about reverse osmosis for my GCSEs. And it was probably one of the most complicated things we talked about.
I have never learned about that because
No.
I did all the basic levels of science. But that's what I find really interesting though about like with brewing and stuff as well, brewing and distilling, is like you do have a lot of people that, you know, study the sciences and then go into brewing, and
Yeah.
like I think that they don't talk enough about how that is like a path you can follow from
Right.
starting out in the sciences,
In
because like
science and end up in brewing.
you don't realize how much some of the science element plays into, like, we know it's like, oh yeah, it's scientific, like the brewing process in general, but like you don't realize some of these more complex things like reverse osmosis, like a lot of that feels very sciencey. And I feel like
Because it is very sciencey.
I need a very sciencey person to come on and explain in more detail about it. I do wonder, like, with all these different like alcohol-free options as well, like what their process is like, you know, what mash gang use. Do they use a mixture of all of those different processes, or do they use one in particular? Like,
I bet we can find out.
interesting.
So on the Guinness website, they say how they make 0% Guinness. So they brew it exactly the same as regular Guinness, and then they use cold filtration, which allows the alcohol to be filtered out without presenting thermal stress on the beer, which protects the integrity of its flavour and character. The brewers then carefully blend and balance the flavours to ensure the distinctive flavour profile and taste characteristics of Guinness are preserved.
I mean, that makes sense. I think
Yeah.
what it shows, however you feel about Guinness, is like, I feel like it shows that they put, like, they're not doing multiple, as a brand, they're not trying to like branch out and do multiple different
Yeah.
like alcohol free things. They've taken the one alcohol free and they've tried to make it as close to, they put a lot of care and effort and consideration into trying to make sure
Yeah.
that it tastes as close to normal Guinness. And I think it's paid off for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. I think it definitely works. Anyway, I know, like, we're getting better non-alcoholic beers at the minute because the processes are being refined and just becoming better, because not only are we all wanting, you know, people are more health conscious, people want to drink less alcohol generally, but have something that still tastes the same and simulates the things that they enjoy. Also, like, the younger generations are not drinking as much, and they're just not drinking as much alcohol. So having non-alcoholic options is definitely the way forward.
It was really interesting because actually I was out yesterday with a few people for a beer meetup locally, and Rick was with us as well. And he was saying about how he was sharing with me and our friends about some article that he had read about some company. I'll try to find the article because maybe this could be a really good one for one of our news series.
Yeah.
But he found an article that was talking about some chain, I guess, that were opening up like non-alcoholic bars. Where that was like, there might have been like a line. I said it would be really funny if they had like a line on that was the for alcohol, because it's like,
Yeah,
it's usually
yeah,
the exact opposite. It's like the one
we have a
alcohol free, and they're like, we have
dedicated alcohol
a
line.
dedicated alcohol line for your alcohol consuming
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
But because they were talking about how they're basically creating the bar environment but with non-alcoholic, so because of the fact that, exactly as you said, it was younger people are drinking less, but they still want to have the bar environment, but you don't have a lot of good non-alcoholic options when you go out. So he didn't remember what the chain was called, and I'll try to find the article because that could be really interesting to talk about, because then part of the conversation that came up was like, well, you know, the argument of, well, do you get, if you have a non-alcoholic, you know, bar, are you able to get that bar environment, or is it too hard when alcohol kind of isn't involved there? And that's like, you know, however you feel about it. But that was the conversation that was up for debate.
That's interesting.
And I'd be really interested to read it.
I was going to share my thoughts, but I won't. If we're going to
wait,
I'm going to save them.
I'll try to find it, because I know that what I said sounds like out of context without hearing any arguments to it or anything like that. It sounds really out of context, but sounds like a really bold claim to be saying, because I think instinctively you hear that and you go, just because, you know, when alcohol's involved, it shouldn't be an excuse for a particular type of behavior or not. But it was a really interesting conversation full on. So save your thoughts. Let me try to find that, and that could make a whole
we'll talk about
different
that.
type of
And we can
conversation.
get some more non-alcoholic.
More non-alcoholics.
Beers.
I have
I mean,
a whole bunch more mash gangs that I got on my order, so I'm good to
you
go.
can get. I've seen non-alcoholic mead, non-alcoholic cider, non-alcoholic gin, and various different spirits are now coming. Non-alcoholic versions. It's a big thing. Definitely, it's interesting to taste them and find the ones that really work. But then I think then when you found the ones that really work, if you just go into a random bar, you're not necessarily going to find them. We're still at that point where, I really like Mash Gang, but if I'm going into, a random pub, I'm not necessarily going to find it on if it's not,
it's
a
more
craft
like
beer
you
place
find it more in a craft beer place than you do anywhere else. Like either a craft beer place or more. I don't know how to explain it because it's more like indie type venue that has somebody that is invested, like in more independent craft breweries being sourced as their drink, even if they're not necessarily craft beer bar. It's the type of place that somebody is more invested in that, and that's how you end up getting some of these. I mean, I think us starting with the Guinness, it's also because that is something that actually is more accessible for people if they want that option, because that's probably realistically going to be one of the alcohol-free options that you can have if you go out places, and I think it does a pretty good job in that. I think, we're getting better, but it's surprising how much still need improvement alcohol free there is. And I think when we talk about you need to try a bunch of things, it can be really hard. So I've had some of the alcohol free gins and they taste pretty good, but I think once you get one that's really good, it's hard to move away from that because there are still so many that is a gamble, that is still just going to taste, in terms of beer, it's still going to taste like wort basically.
And then as well, going back to our is it worth the carbs, then if you're taking a gamble on it, is it worth the money if you're spending when you're going, especially on something like gin, and I know a lot of people complain that non-alcoholic versions are similarly priced to alcohol versions. I mean, I'm not being funny, but look at the price of a Coke nowadays. That isn't that much cheaper nowadays. If you're picking something, it better be good for you to spend your money on it, whether it's soda, non-alcoholic, alcoholic.
And I think I completely agree. And I think the thing is with the Guinness is one that you can try at home and you can go, yeah, I've actually liked that. And then there is some consistency across the board of what you can get out and about at a pub. Whereas some of these other Mash Gang and stuff that are really good, it's going to be harder to even get the consistency because you might have Mash Gang at one place and then a completely other brand at another place. And it's difficult because I think there's not a lot of options for the alcohol free when you go out places. So when you do have, it is more of a risk because you'll normally get one or two options. And if you've never had either of those, it is that gamble that is it worth the money? Is it worth, you're going to order it and be really disappointed because you're expecting one thing and it's going to be completely different than that. But then I think the opposite of that is when you find ones that are really good, you do want to keep going back and getting those. I remember when we had we tried the Lucky Saint and that alcohol-free lager, and that to me, I've told people out and about at bars and stuff for them, actually Lucky Saint, pretty good. I remember that being pretty good. So I think we have all these new technologies, and I wish that the people that are using it and making these really good beers would be having more consistency in pub locations and bar locations. That's my little rant for the day. My very calm rant for the day.
Shall we move on to our next beer? So you picked this one out.
I did.
This is Classic Bruce, alcohol-free chocolate stout from Northern Monk, a collaboration with Get Baked.
Yeah. I follow Get Baked. They're retiring the Bruce cake.
So I don't know anything about Get Baked. Do you want to tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, so Get Baked, I first found them because of their classic Bruce cake. And it's basically, I think they hate getting compared to Matilda, but the best way that I can describe it is in Matilda, that chocolate cake. That is just like that huge fudgy rich chocolate cake.
Yeah.
They're retiring it now, but that's how I found them, was through like them making this viral cake. And like basically you can go on twice a week. I want to say it's like either Mondays or Tuesday mornings and then like Thursday mornings. And it gets released for delivery at like 10 o'clock, and you can get a slice of it for delivery, for next day delivery, and it's normally sold out like so quickly. So I didn't manage to get the cake, but I got a classic Bruce pudding, which is basically like, I don't know how to describe it because I've not had it yet myself. So, but it looks like it's almost more like a, think like sticky toffee pudding type
Yeah.
element, but it's with chocolate fudge cake and frosting and like hot fudge, and then you would then top it with ice cream if you wanted to. So I managed to get one of those these times, and some cookies and some brownies, and I got the cookbook so that you can kind of make the classic Bruce yourself if you really wanted to. I had a slice, if anyone has gone on my Instagram, I had a slice of a local bakery, like a local small business baker. She was at Siren's birthday, and she's said that the one that she made came from the cookbook. She's giving credit obviously to Get Baking, and she made like the birthday Bruce, which was basically the Bruce chocolate cake, but it had sprinkles all over it. And they do so many other like really good puddings, like in general. Like they've got, so far out of the 2 cookies I had, can sign off on those, they're really great. The brownies have been really good and really fudgy. I'm really excited to have like the cookbook now to try to make some of these things as well. But yeah, it's bakery in Leeds pretty much. And they're replacing their Bruce with, I think it's called a Bertha. That's going to be the replacement, which is going to be more slightly different, more their own recipe, and then they can like trademark that, because obviously there's a lot of copycats that come out and go, we've got our own version of this. So they've got something that's slightly different, slightly tweaked, and is their own. So that I do want to try it because it looks phenomenal. Like, go and look at their stuff, it's phenomenal. So when I saw this collab, I was like, I need to have this because I love a good rich fudgy chocolate cake, and I thought I need to know if this is going to scratch the itch for like a nice chocolate stout or chocolate cake.
Yeah, because that's going to be, I'm interested to see what the body's like, how chocolatey it is. I feel like there's, before we get into it, I feel like there's the potential that it could be too sweet.
I'm worried that's not going to be sweet enough in the right way. Like, it's not going to be sweet enough in a chocolate way. It's just going to be just
like
sweet,
worty sweet, maybe.
Worty sweet, not chocolate.
Not
like, I'm worried there's not going to be enough chocolate, and that's what I'm really worried about, because I'm like really looking forward to this being. But I think it's also because I've had the fudgy cake, and like so my top tip, I think I've shared it before, is like, it's not the same, but similarly enough, like you get the Costco cake, you cut it up into slices, and then you freeze it, and then you can take it out and you get this like lovely rich fudgy chocolate cake every time you want it.
Chocolate cake tip.
Oh, I love it so much. So or maybe I have to do that tonight, or maybe I need to just make the Bruce tonight, I don't know. But I really love a good rich fudgy chocolate cake, so I'm just worried that this collab is gonna like get my hopes up, and then I'm gonna go, oh, it's fine. But let's have it. I need to rip the Band-Aid off. But that's why I suggested we had to get it, is because I was like, oh, I love Get Baked. They're funny as well, like the team at Get Baked with their posts on Instagram. Quite a thick head on mine.
Mine's quite bubbly.
Yeah. I'm worried because I feel like I'm even looking at it and my brain's already going, is it thin? Is it going to be really thin?
It feels like it was a thin pour.
Yeah, that's why I'm like really worried. It does smell like chocolate cake though. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
It does actually smell, to me, like a chocolate sponge cake.
Yeah, it does.
Like a surprising amount. The majority of what I'm getting is, quite frankly, chocolate cake.
I'm getting some hop. Interesting.
Well, it's weird because the element that's making up the chocolate cake, I feel like you can interpret that in like numerous different ways as well. So maybe because my brain is looking for chocolate cake, that's how all of those aromas came together for me.
I think it was something volatile that's gone off. Because now it smells like chocolate cake. All right.
Sip.
Are you ready?
Oh, I'm scared.
Ready?
All right, go. Cheers. Weird.
It's quite thin.
It is quite thin, but like the aftertaste is really like chocolate. Like I wouldn't say cake, but it's like frosting.
Yeah. It's like bitter dark chocolate.
Yeah. It's
not sweet.
It's not sweet. It's surprisingly, like the initial taste is surprisingly bland. But
Yeah.
it's immediate. Like, so the first bit is quite. It's thinner a mouthfeel for sure. Which again, I don't rule that as necessarily a bad thing.
No.
It's quite dry to me, and there's not. It's kind of. I think that dryness at the start kind of makes it a bit devoid of too much flavour. But then towards the back end and the aftertaste, it tastes like a dark chocolatey frosting.
I've been having a few more sips, and as you sip it, it is building up into like a chocolatey cake flavour. It's like the chocolate cake without any frosting on it.
Yeah, I think the more you drink it, the more you get. So initially, it was very much frosting towards the back end. Now it is more cake without frosting. Weirdly, like how that shifted, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't make up my mind about it because it's interesting. There is almost like, I don't know if it's because you infiltrated my mind at the start, but there is almost like a bit of like a something like hoppy about it to me, but I can't work out what.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I don't know how I feel about it. I wanted it to be more fuller bodied because of the fact that I wanted a cake that was more like, I want it to be a fuller mouthfeel because of like the rich chocolate cake. But it's delivering chocolate cake, so
it is delivering chocolate cake. It does what it says on the tin.
And it's not overly sweet.
No.
It's quite dry.
Body.
I'd like more body. I think if this had more body, I feel like it would be wicked.
Yeah,
that would take it to the next.
Yeah, I'd be more satisfied if it had more body.
I think we don't normally need, like for me, the body element doesn't make or break if something like tastes nice usually. But I think for something like this, when you think a big, rich, luxurious chocolate cake, that's where with frosting, like you want that
like even the
bigger, creamier.
Label, for those that aren't watching the video, it's stripes, but it's like it's a photograph of chocolate cake with layers of frosting in between. Like it's like you're looking at the can and you're expecting, like your brain is already going, this is going to taste like that cake.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've been set up to expect a particular flavour.
I think I wanted, like, with that cream, like I wanted it to be creamier.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wanted to have a creamy, fuller mouthfeel.
It tastes like chocolate cake though.
But it does taste like chocolate cake. So again, I really can't complain about it.
Yeah.
So looking at the label, it does say the ingredients are water, malted barley, oats, lactose, hops, natural flavours, and yeast. So what I was gonna say was like, I feel like I just want, like, I know not everyone's a fan of lactose, but I was like, I just want some lactose or something in it. I feel like that will help with the body. It's surprising that there is lactose in it already.
Yeah, I am surprised by that. I didn't think there was.
But I mean, it does also say hops, so maybe whatever hops they've used might have been what some of the flavourings come from. Because it's almost like, I don't know how, like I genuinely really don't know how to describe it, because the chocolate cake element is definitely sticking towards the back end. It's changed from being like frosting to cake. It's gotten stronger as we keep drinking it, but it's also very much like the second half of the sip. For me, the first half is very much just like a dry, not quite roasty, but almost roasty.
Yeah.
And then there's like a hoppy element that I almost want to say, I need another sip because it's like weird because I almost want to say there's like, tobacco's not the right word, but like,
Oh no, I know what you mean when you say that. Yeah.
do you know, like, I feel like I can say it and I go, that's not right, but
Yeah, and I
the
don't want to say
closest
leafy,
thing,
but also
it's not leaf because it's
not
not
leafy, but it's because it's not leaf. But I know what you mean.
just
Yeah, I can't think of the right word to describe
interesting.
it.
And I'm wondering if the natural flavors are why it tastes like, why they're able to get that.
Yeah,
Because what I find with depending on like the type of chocolate you use and stuff like that, it can really, sometimes when you're making something that's meant to taste like cake, you don't really get that cakey taste, but this does
yeah,
taste like chocolate cake. So I'm wondering if it has to do with some of like the flavorings that they used, so they were able to get something more accurate to cake.
yeah, maybe. Going back to while we were talking about lactose, I went back to my non-alcoholic beer making notes, and there was a note in that was because the body of a non-alcoholic beer can sometimes be thin. A suggestion to aid that was to try adding high protein grains like flaked oats, which this one has got in it. And you can also try resting the beer at 70 degrees Celsius to form more dextrins, which also contribute to the body. But equally, some non-alcoholic beer brewers add in lactose because that adds to the body of it as well. But obviously then that means that it's not vegan because it's got milk in it. So some brewers are trying to avoid that so that it's accessible to everybody.
But I do get it. Like, I appreciate it. There are just, and I think I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I think lactose gets just used too willy nilly. Like,
Yeah.
people are just like, let's throw some lactose in, and it will fix like all the problems. And you're just a bit like, no, you don't need. Like, this beer did not need lactose.
Yeah. What was it? Did I find a lager that had lactose in it at one point? And I was like, why is there lager in? Why is there lactose in this lager?
We've taken lactose too far.
I was like, why is there lactose in this?
I love an appropriate usage of lactose, but obviously I like it to be inclusive. I've got friends that are vegan.
Yeah.
Like, I would like it to be able to be inclusive so that they can have
people
it as
that
well.
are lactose intolerant.
It's true. But then, like, I feel like I also know people who are lactose intolerant that are, if it tastes good enough, they're like, worth it. They're like, it's worth the pain. So they are like selectively, they're not selectively lactose intolerant because they're always lactose intolerant, but they're like selective about when they're like,
right,
I'm just going to take some pills and just deal with it when it's good enough. But yeah, I don't know. My mind's still not 100% made up on it. I think I wouldn't say I'm disappointed because there is still like a chocolate cake element to it. Cake. But I think it's more like what I wanted from it.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it says on the tin. I guess with the exception of you potentially be expecting more body from it than what you're getting. Especially if you're reading it and you're like, well, this has lactose, therefore. Yeah. More likely than not, you're going to have extra body. But yeah, it does the job if you don't mind the thinness and the initial taste of like the dry. Like, it's not going to be like you're biting into a cake from the first sip. Like, you have to look for that flavour.
Yeah, definitely. Right, shall we brave?
Yeah, now I'm double scared.
Right, so we've then got Cinnabone, which is a cinnamon roll and coffee stout from Mash Gang.
I went to Lidl and they had cinnamon buns as one of their special things. So I actually did get a cinnamon bun. I'm very excited about it. So I thought I'd have it on hand in case I forgot what a cinnamon bun tasted like.
Like you've forgotten what a cinnamon bun tastes like.
I don't even understand what they taste like. I don't even know.
Oh my god, that's such a lie.
I think anyway. I don't think I need to explain why this was something that I had to buy. I looked at it for so long before I invested in buying it as well. And then when I saw my manager was going to get it, I was like, well, I'm going to get FOMO now. So
you open it and it smells of cinnamon.
It smells like cinnamon and the frosting, like cream cheese frosting.
So much cinnamon.
I feel like this is the right amount of cinnamon. I'm not going to lie to you. It
It's
smells
like I'm
like...
sniffing a tub of cinnamon.
No, so you know what it is? It's not normal cinnamon. It tastes like an actual stick of cinnamon.
Ah, yeah.
It's not like when you have like the
Yeah.
already powdered cinnamon. It's a cinnamon stick, 100%. I know my cinnamons. This is a cinnamon stick. Literally tastes like I feel like I'm getting cloves and cinnamon stick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when you have like the pouches, not potpourri pouches, but like when you have those pouches that people make for making like mulled cider and stuff like that is what it smells
I feel like I'm getting a little bit of like a nutty coffee in the background as well.
I feel like I am getting...
But mostly cinnamon and cloves.
I'm definitely mainly getting cinnamon and cloves, but I feel like there's a potential that I'm also getting more of a savoury element to it, but I don't know if that's because that's what I want it to be. And I think in the can smell, I definitely got like a little bit of like cream cheese type frosting. So, which actually, to be fair, on the back, I didn't read the back till now, it does... So there's nothing I love more in terms of mole cuisine than ooey gooey cinnamon rolls made with sweet buttery dough that is swirled with cinnamon and topped with heaps of rich cream cheese frosting. Capturing all that and slamming it in a stout seemed like a good idea. I agree.
I mean, I agree.
I like on the front it says Cinnabone made with real chaos. That is, I mean, I feel like everything about this is a skull on it.
Yeah.
Everything about this, just, I had to have it. I wasn't going to not have it.
It's you all over.
All right, should we have a sip of it?
Yeah, ready?
Oh, I'm scared.
Cheers.
That's a lot of cinnamon, but not like, I'm not mad.
There's a lot of cinnamon. It's not like... It's not overpoweringly cinnamon.
No,
it's the
but
right
it's
level of cinnamon.
If you don't like cinnamon, this is not the one for you.
This is not the one for you.
But there's also like I am definitely getting coffee. Like I'm getting the coffee element of it as well. But it does taste like when you... I mean, I don't think this is wrong. Like it's thinner mouthfeel. Yeah. But I don't mind it because the flavors are so bold that I think that if you had more body to it, there's a potential that it might be too sickly.
I think it could get overpowering if it was too much more syrupy.
It would be more syrupy, I think, if you added more body to it.
Yeah, which is what I say about stouts
don't like that.
Because people are always like, oh, they've got to be so thick and oily and syrupy and blah, blah, blah. But they can get overpowering and too much when they're like this. Like, I think the body, though it's thinner than I was expecting it to be, it's right. It's the right kind of mouthfeel.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, though, it does replicate when you bite into a cinnamon... When you bite into a cinnamon bun, that has a lot of, like, cinnamon in it.
Yeah.
So you have that taste. Like, there is almost, like, a spicy element to it. Because when you have, like, a lot of cinnamon, you get that sort of, like, fiery taste. And it does that, and it does taste like it's a really, really heavily cinnamon bun. The only thing that I feel like is missing that doesn't come through enough is the frosting part of it.
Yeah.
The sweet frosting part of it. But, I mean, to be fair, all three, I feel like, have tasted like there's alcohol in it. They don't taste like 0.5 percenters. And it does taste like if you were getting a cinnamon bun stout that wasn't 0.5%, this is kind of probably a similar taste that I feel like you would expect.
I think this is what Mash Gang does really well. When they say a flavour, it's that flavour. Like, they hit all the flavour notes. And their beers are always full of flavour. Like, I think sometimes when you get a non-alcoholic beer, it's that wordiness, or, you know, it tastes like, air quotes, beer.
Yeah.
Whereas Mash Gang's beers have flavour. They've got, you know, if it's an IPA, it's got the flavours of an IPA. If it's a lager, it's got that breadiness and not overly sweet. Like, you know, when it's a stout, it's got the punchy flavours of a big stout about it. That's what they do really well.
Yeah, this has got yeast, cinnamon, vanilla, lactose. I mean, this also has lactose in it. Hops, maltodextrin, oats, malted barley, and water. So yeah, I think that's the vanilla part of it. Is I think what's bringing the savoury element into the like. I don't taste it that much, but I think that's what's bringing in the aroma side of things, the frosting and the like savoury pastry part of it. I'm gonna try a bit of the cinnamon bun actually.
Okay. Oh yeah. Here you go. Da, da, da. Food pairing.
Because, like, yeah, I think if you look at this is pretty. If you're watching the video, it's pretty cinnamony on the inside. All right. God, it's so sticky. There's a lot of. It was a sticky cinnamon bun. To be fair, they pair really well together because it's the savoury, doughy part of this that feels like it pairs really well with the heavily cinnamoned element of the stout and sort of like the darkness of the stout, but it's thinner bodied, so like you don't have it overwhelmingly syrupy and thick. What I think would be like what would make this amazing potentially is using the Cinnabon with cinnamon bread and turning it into like a bread pudding.
Okay.
Somehow. I feel like that would work really well. That style of dessert with it.
Yeah. Ooh.
A chocolate bread pudding using that as the chocolatey part.
Yeah. I'm slightly concerned that we're going to end up being the channel on YouTube where people come to watch women eat food.
Yeah.
Because we keep ending up doing that. It'd be fine. That's not the purpose of our channel. Just putting it out there.
Well, you win some, you lose some, and it gets views. If it gets us the views, I'll eat cinnamon buns all day. So if it gets the point across about alcohol-free stouts, there you go.
All right. So after drinking these, how do you feel about non-alcoholic stouts?
I still think that there's work to do on the non-alcoholic stout front because I still think that body is widely an issue for most of them. Yeah. I think the Guinness, while none of these are bad, I think the Guinness, because of how the body of the Guinness is, it's not wild. Like there's not a mild, like a huge gap between a Guinness and the Guinness Zero in terms of like body, like there is with some of these other like pastry stout type things. You expect a fuller body from those. The Guinness, I think, was probably the one that was the most accurate to what I would be expecting in that sense, but I think that's because I have a baseline to compare it to. I don't have an alcohol classic Bruce. I don't have an alcoholic Cinnabon from the same breweries, so I think Cinnabon might be my favourite though out of all of it. And then it's quite close with the Guinness, to be fair, but that's because again I enjoy Guinness.
I really like the Guinness, but also I'm very aware that they are a massive company, and so they can invest in the type of technology that they need to do that. Right, our slightly smaller craft brewers are not able to do that, so are doing what they can. So it's easy for these bigger companies to test out and get their just change their regular recipes to non-alcoholic because they've got the money to invest in it, or there may be a brand already on the roster that has the equipment for that they can use. It's not as easy for smaller producers to be able to do that, but I would, if I see Guinness Zero in a pub and I'm not drinking alcohol, like I would definitely buy it. But I really like this Mash Gang.
Yeah, the Mash Gang's really good.
It's definitely, the more you drink it, the more I'm enjoying it. But yeah, if you don't like cinnamon, not for you.
If you don't like cinnamon, this is not going to be
as soon as you crack it open, you will be like, "What is this?
I hate
this. Away from me." Yeah, I hate it. This is a nightmare. What is happening?
It's funny how many people I meet that are like big no to cinnamon. Big no.
Big
But
yes.
yeah.
And we're getting into the right season for this now.
You don't have to tell me once, twice, or even
I
3
have
times.
not had a pumpkin spice latte yet. I'm very disappointed.
I've had 5.
5? I haven't had one yet.
I've had 5, and I've had to deal with all the horrible things people have said to me all 5 times.
Discrimination.
They were like, it's too early.
No,
and they're like,
there
needs to be a chill in the air. And I was like,
No.
look at outside. I was like, it actually genuinely is rainy, miserable. Not today, but normally rainy, miserable, horrible these last 2 weeks. And I was like, what do you mean it has to be a chill? There's definitely a chill in the air. I'm wearing a jumper and there doesn't. Like,
I would drink pumpkin spice on the beach. I don't care.
Yeah, I would as well.
Don't care.
I would as well. But just the mere fact that somebody tried to say, oh no, there needs to be a chill in the air to enjoy it properly. It needs to be, it's too early, it's not autumn yet. I was like, have you seen the weather?
That's cool. You don't have to buy one. I will drink yours for you until you're ready.
So I love how somehow we managed to turn an alcohol-free stout episode into shouting about pumpkin spice.
I'm sad because I haven't had one yet. I'm very sad.
You need to get on that. I feel like this year I need to track how many I have. I'm on number 5. And that's because I've held back.
I haven't been near a Starbucks.
My wallet can't handle having had more than 5.
That is the thing. Although I'm travelling soon, so then I should be at airports and service stations where I can get to a Starbucks. So
hopefully they have them at the airports though, because I'm pre-release right now. So
I'd be very disappointed. I managed to get it 1 year in Munich station at the Starbucks there, so be fine.
I wish you lots of luck on that. And
Thank
for
you.
any cinnamon lovers, definitely get on that Cinnabon. I bet you could probably make some really good cinnamon buns with Cinnabon.
Yeah, you probably could. Definitely.
Big recommend there.
Right, so Tori Powell, if people want to recommend chocolate cake to you,
oh my god, yeah. Or you want to talk to me about like Get Baked and the stuff that I got from them recently, because it just arrived on Friday, which means nothing in the terms of when this was released, but it was just delivered not that long ago from when we were recording this. Or you want to talk about cinnamon, I'll talk about baked goods with you all day long. That's no problem there. You can find me on Instagram at adventures_in_optimism, or you can email me at adventuresinoptimism@gmail.com. If you want to recommend some more alcohol-free stouts to Joe and I, or there's another style that you want us to look at in terms of trying a particular style of alcohol-free and trying to find the best of what you can, you can reach out to us at A Woman's Brew on Instagram and Facebook, or you can email us links, or if you're an alcohol-free brewery that you want us to talk to you, have you on the podcast, we're more than happy to do it. Drop us an email at awomansbrewpodcast@gmail.com. Joe, if people want to talk to you about the alcohol-free Guinness, because it feels like that one definitely scratched an itch for you.
Yeah. You can come and talk to me about the alcohol-free Guinness, because I really enjoyed that. Like, tell me if you've enjoyed the alcohol-free Guinness. You can come find me. I am Love Beer Learning on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. Those are probably the 2 best places to find me. Or you can come to my website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk, or you can email me, lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. Tell me if you found an alcohol-free stout that is better than Guinness Zero, because I want to hear about it and I'd like to try it. Right, we're going to go and finish these non-alcoholic beers on a Sunday afternoon. Cheers.
Cheers.